It's too good, Chase.
It's way too good, guys.
Good.
You're listening to Pink by Mary Johns from Survivor 48. God, I love that song.
She's
Guys,
the best.
It's the sanctuary where good pods happen. It's me and Jonathan this week, but we do have a very special guest. We have, maybe you know him from Parade.com. Maybe you know him from Rob Has a Podcast. Maybe you know him as the guy who named the Bloomin' Onion. It's Mike Bloom.
Not unproven at this point. You know, if modern day internet culture has told us anything, is let's make our own truth, put it out there. I mean, perception is reality, as Survivor likes to teach us.
Exactly. It's all about the edit.
I like to imagine with these rules that, Chase, you invented the bridge, right? Like just Chase Bridges.
My family invented bridges. Yeah.
Okay,
and your family invented being right
all the time.
Everybody was wrong before.
And winning, because he had that W in front of it as well.
I do.
Nobody won anything before the Wright family came along.
That's what I've been trying to tell everyone for years.
Well, and that's the thing, is that actually, theoretically, before the concept of Wright, there was no winner in an argument. So
everyone just, these arguments kept going, and they were like, how do we stop these? And then my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather said, I think one of you has to be like me, right? So that's how it happened.
And then fast forward, and we have the greatest social experiment on TV, Survivor.
Yeah, you're
All
welcome.
Thanks to you, guys. Mike Bloom is here. I almost called you Mike White because we kept saying right over and over.
I mean, that's totally fine. There was actually a clip that Star from season 48, who I love dearly, accidentally called Mike White my name over the summer. So I'm happy to have the false equivalency happen in both directions here.
That's got to feel great. When it's like, yeah, you may have written White Lotus, but you're in my ballpark right now. This is the Survivor world.
Exactly. Welcome to you have no experience on Survivor, Mike White. This is my neck of the woods.
So since we've brought up a Survivor contestant, let's jump right into it. Now, obviously, I think you're probably the most well-known because you were the guy that does the pre-interviews for all of the contestants every season. How many years have you been doing that now?
Okay, so it started with season 39. So I've been doing it in some way, shape, or form pretty much since then. So it's coming up past 10 seasons at this point. But, you know, I guess if we're counting the year that they took off because of COVID, it technically is 6 years. Though it's 5 active years that I've been doing it for.
Wow.
Now, that's fascinating in and of itself, right? Like, you're the pre-interview for all of the Survivor contestants from the past 4 or 5 years. My biggest question, right off the bat, and this might be going way too deep, way too fast.
No, please.
Have you ever been interviewing one of these players and you just went, oh, yeah, they're going to win this season?
There are, granted, I try to keep an open mind because as we've experienced, you know, the game of Survivor has so many weird factors that can get incorporated into it. I think especially we see with the new era, starting tribe dictates so much.
Yeah.
Like, you can have a winner candidate and then it's like, shit, you're on the disaster tribe? Well, your chances of, like, making it past episode 3 have essentially been cut in half. The one that I really have a distinct memory of is not even talking with Kenzie. After Kenzie and I spoke, she's like, I'm a hugger, give me a hug. And, like, I just felt that warmth there. I felt the mermaid dragon, and I'm like, granted, again, a few days later, I'm like, let's see if she can make it out of there in one piece. And granted, it was a little bit of both. But she was definitely someone that I think I would recall first and foremost, like, oh, yeah. I mean, it depends on, you know, I'll pull out a card in my pocket depending on who wins season 49 because, you know, I got good senses from specific people. I have no idea if they're going to win. To answer your question, I get good vibes from a lot of different people. More often than not, they're not the winner. So Kenzie is like the one time where lightning struck.
Well, and Banu, of course.
Of course, Banu was electric. I loved it. I got to be there for that first tribal council, which was iconic in so many ways.
Wow.
One of them being, but I got to experience Banu prompting Jeff, it is time to vote. And we were just sitting here like, what the fuck is going on with this group of people? You know, it's one of those things where you can already get a sense as to how the season is going to kick off. And I've been an ardent 46 defender since the season first aired.
Oh, yeah.
Even during those days where it felt like nobody was on its side. And so that being there in the moment was near and dear to my heart because you could just tell the group of wackadoodles that would be before us.
Oh man, we love Banu here. We talk
Oh,
about
dude.
Banu a lot. We talk about Banu so much. One of our patrons, shout out to Wild and Will, just got a Banu tattoo.
It's true.
That says a million hearts.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Does Banu have any knowledge of this? Do you know?
I believe he
Yes.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really crazy because PD he just locked in on Banu.
Yeah.
I mean, episode 1, he was like, "This is the guy. We're going to talk about him a lot." And Chase and I warmed up like maybe 2 episodes in. We were like,
When he did the hand.
yeah. When he won me over when he started cursing God.
Oh, that's the thing. And listen, I understand. Listen, it's one of the reasons why the show has been going for 25 years, that everyone has different things they enjoy about the show, different strokes for different folks. And I know that people felt, especially in the moment, that first stretch was excruciating. But I'm sorry, it is objectively hysterical that a man who prayed so hard to God that this man smote Randon's nervous system to take him out of the game, a day later is like, fuck you. Why did you do this to me?
He's like, Randon leaves, and Banu's like, "This is the greatest thing that's ever happened in Survivor." You know, it's just the whole thing, man.
Not to move us off of that electric season, because we could talk about that season all night. But you brought up this season 49. There's a lot of negativity in the Survivor space right now, especially online. Yeah. People don't seem to be liking this season. I'm personally having a lot of fun with this season. What are your thoughts? You've been covering this for a while now. Is this a bad season so far?
It's interesting you say negativity, because I could see it to a certain aspect, but I think the feeling I see more so from the fan base is apathy. And I think that is sort of maybe the sense that I'm getting from this season. It's always, I come from a unique perspective in that I know these people as people, first and foremost, before they become quote-unquote survivors. They are people to me, sitting in the sweaty-ass jungle, talking with the sweaty-ass boy over here. So, I am sort of looking through things being like, okay, I know who this person is, so I enjoy the moments where they get to flash. And not to say there haven't been moments of flashiness, especially in the past few episodes. What I feel like this season is more so doing is, if Survivor got this big, plastic surgery makeover in the new era, where they're like, okay, things are looking a little saggy in some places, a little wrinkled in other areas. We're going to inject it, go under the knife. We're
going to give it the Jeff Probst.
Exactly. Get everything tucked and lifted and make it new and shiny and fresh. It's starting to wear off a little bit. The wrinkles are starting to come back, because I just think that, you look at the first part of the season, and it was certainly in a sense of okay, all of the votes, basically up until the Shannon vote, so half of the season at that point, were all very run-of-the-mill from a strategic perspective. That doesn't always need to be a problem, necessarily. I'm never someone who dictates it in my enjoyment of a Survivor episode by, who's the one who gets voted out, if the voting chart is a unanimous vote or not. But I think that, unfortunately, it sort of is coming at the cost of, okay, so if the gameplay isn't exactly, off the wall, and the characters are not necessarily off the wall, all you can sort of then look at is, the skeleton of the new era. And they vary things up. There's no more Mergatory, but it does seem like, again, some of these familiar things are moments where it allows us to kind of reconcile as fans and be like, yeah, why do they still do that? They're 9 seasons and they're still doing this thing, and they're still confident that it's going to work time in and time out. I also think something that I've picked up on the past couple of episodes when it comes to storytelling is that I'm getting a lot of tell, don't show from this edit in particular. And granted, we know that 50 is coming, and we know that 2 people from 50 are going to be on. So I came in with the knowledge that the edit might be a little different, because it's not going to be as slanted as Russell in Heroes versus Villains, but you imagine the show wants to highlight these 2 people, whoever they are. I think sometimes it's kind of
whoever they are,
whoever these people might be.
We don't know, right?
It's they're wearing bags over their heads with question marks at this point. But then it sort of obfuscates some of the other characters as well, to the point where things are presented kind of abruptly. I mean, certainly this past episode, I think there's a lot of discourse around where did this Alex's messy narrative come from, if not just Rizzo spinning something out of his ass, and then B, obviously a lot of slamming the people who decided to flip on the majority to join in on the Alex vote. And I think I would imagine at least, there was rationale as to why they were doing so. We're just not getting shown it. Yeah, and so I also feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect in the narrative for me. I'm still enjoying these people, and I think that the gameplay and the season itself has certainly gotten interesting. You know, we are still technically at like a 5-3 disadvantage for this underdog group, that they have a butt ton of advantages at this point. But it does leave me feeling, you know, leaving each episode being like, okay, there are fun things that I enjoy from this, but did I enjoy the whole as much as the sum of its parts?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of people have been mentioning that maybe this season is suffering because of season 50, and we know, I mean, you know, we don't know, quote unquote, but we know who the two returning players are. Do you feel like that is hurting the season, or do you think that that's just the cost of doing business?
I mean, what's interesting is that, you know, when you think about seasons that come right before these highly anticipated returning player seasons, Samoa, there was really no social media at the time, though there was a lot of obsession around Russell. Obviously brought a lot of people back into Survivor. You know, you look at like Millennials versus Gen X, I think there was still a lot of strength there. You know, there's still a lot of wild stuff happening. They didn't necessarily make it seem like, come on, Game Changers, especially once people knew the Game Changers cast. I don't think they were necessarily jonesing to be like, get me to Game Changers. And then, obviously, I think for very different reasons, people were eager to tune out of Island of the Idols and look forward to Winners at War. So this is a unique situation. I think also the Survivor fan base has become a much different version of itself than it was even 5 years ago when Winners at War was on the way. I could certainly see from some people's perspectives, they're like, get these, you know, people out of here. I want to see my faves. I think it doesn't exactly help if people feel disconnected in other ways from, you know, the episodes prior than they do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't only cover Survivor, which is important to note, because Survivor is obviously a big part of our lives, but you cover so many different shows, especially reality TV shows. Dude. I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this. Maybe everyone just assumes Survivor's the top. Is Survivor your number one that you cover, or where does it rank on the shows that you cover?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, you know, Survivor is incredibly special to me. It will be number one just because of the pleasure, the privilege that I have to be able to be, you know, cover the show in the way that I do in multiple ways, be it podcast, be it written, be it, again, flying out to the aforementioned sweaty-ass jungle and be that sweaty-ass boy. Like, that's gonna make it 1A to me no matter what. And it also helps that I love the show, even during seasons, even during moments that I don't necessarily love. Like, I still, you know, is pumping blood through these veins to get my my TV loving heart a beating every second of every day. I mean, there's other shows that I love covering as well. You know, I've always been a big fan of what I call the big three of CBS, which is Big Brother, Amazing Race, Survivor. So to just even cover those in the limited capacities that I do is an incredible blessing. And it's a blessing on top of a blessing to be able to get to do all the things I've gotten to do with Survivor so far. Like, I still pinch myself about it. Yeah. Just because, like, who am I? How did I get the ability to be able to do this? That's what a lot of people have been telling me for years as well, so it certainly helps my own mentality.
Well, I kind of want to know, you know, when they reached out to you to do this, I mean, what was that like? Like, how did that go down, and what was that process involving? I mean, it's just such an interesting request to suddenly get one day.
Yeah, I mean, I got very lucky that in many ways, and I have said this, talked about it up and down these internet streets, and I will continue to do so, that I owe so much of my life to a lovely man by the name of Josh Wigler. I have felt aghast, gentlemen, that, like, as the kids say, we're losing the ancient text. That, you know, I'm reading comments over the past, like, few years or so when Josh would occasionally show up on an RHAP podcast. People would be like, who's this guy? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, you were there in the 30s. You understand the importance that this man had to Survivor in general. And so, you know, the long story short is that Josh was leaving his post at Parade to go cover Survivor and other stuff at The Hollywood Reporter. I talked with him about like, hey, I like talking with people. Maybe I'll get into journalism. And he's like, oh, well, I got this opportunity. Like, again, people ask me like, how do I get to do what you do? I have no discernible answer. I was in the right place, in the right time, and I knew the right person. It is a sucky answer to give, but that is my story. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like, though, that's always how these things seem to happen, right? It's like people say, oh, like someone got lucky or they like it fell in their lap. And I feel like the truth is most of the time, luck is just saying yes to the stuff that seems like super weird until all of a sudden you like find yourself in these situations. But it's like being willing to say yes to it, because you could have been like, oh, I'm not, like, I don't know. You know? And then the luck is gone. But instead you chose to do it.
Do you have did you already have a background in journalism?
I'm going to feel terrible for saying this.
Other than college paper, right?
Never did college paper.
Oh, I was just taking a swing out there.
Never went to journalism school. Never interviewed anyone in my life before I started at Parade.
That's awesome.
So it was, I mean, my first interview was such mixed emotions because Josh was very kind and very strategic in giving me my first interview, which was Zeke's boot from Game Changers. And Zeke at that point was a friend of mine. We had become friendly during his, at that point, like nearly 2 seasons of the show. However, obviously there is a lot tied to Zeke and his journey on Game Changer. So it's still a little aggravating, but Zeke was incredibly courteous, incredibly giving with his answers. And it honestly, from there, was just kind of building the plane as it flies, trying to figure things out, you know. So then I got brought on board to cover Survivor for Parade, starting with Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. But then, like, even that summer, you know, I got an email from CBS being like, do you cover Big Brother? And I'm like, yeah, I love Big Brother. And they're like, okay, great, you're going to do these interviews. And I'm like,
whoa.
So I think, right, you are right. In that, like, for me, I mean, my life philosophy is that I will always try something at least once. Not just applying to hard drugs, but everything under the sun. Just because I feel like for me, you can speculate all you want to about like, how would I do if I did this? It never compares to the actual reality.
Yeah,
of getting
totally.
to do so one way or the other. So I'm like, let me try this. Let me see what happens. And what happened is, you know, 8 years so far of, like, to be completely candid, like getting to do a dream job. And it's only due to the support of, you know, whether it be Parade, whether it be CBS or these other networks, whether it be all the people who check out what I do, sometimes begrudgingly, sometimes in, you know, wholehearted support. So, like, I mean, I still think I'm just a schlub, just a random guy who, again, happened to talk with the right person at the right time and talk with the right person. But, like, that's why it makes me incredibly, you know, counting my lucky stars each and every night that I get to wake up the next day and I get to cover some of my favorite shows in the ways that I get to do.
From regular guy to sweaty ass boy, the Mike Bloom story.
I don't know how many copies that will sell. I know a lot of people are putting out Survivor books as of late. I'll admit to you, Chase, that one might need to be like in the very back of the bookstore. You know?
No, that's a #1 New York Times bestseller.
It's front and center. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier that, you know, you get to do a lot with Rob has a podcast. Obviously, kind of the Survivor godfather of the media side of things, podcast
which
side
is wild
of things.
Because he once upon a time had beef with the man who quoted the Godfather on Survivor. So
Yep. We call Rob the Amazonian horn dog. That's what we call him.
The Making the Merge
Well, now you give
podcast.
us. I know he's coming out with a book, but I think we're going to have to come back and give him a brand new title.
And then now we have a nickname for you too, which is Sweaty Ass Boy.
Give me the SAB, baby.
Yeah.
But
The sob?
doing
Sob.
so much with Parade, doing so much with Rob has a podcast. When you are the sweaty ass boy and you're on the beaches of Fiji and you're there and you're in the midst of it, does it change the game for you? Because like you mentioned earlier, you see them as people before they become characters on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that, like, I ever necessarily mischaracterized some of these people. I mean, granted, obviously, as we all attempt to mature in this world, we gain perspectives that we haven't before. But, I mean, I'd like to think that even before I got to do so, and maybe it's also because of, like, with the proliferation of social media, I feel like we do get to see a side of these people now sort of more unfiltered than through the show, which I think gives us a better sense as to who they are than just a character. Not to say we're past the days of like Jerry Manthe getting hate mail and death threats. Again, considering talk to some modern survivors and they might give you similar stories. But I mean, I do think that it does allow me to get a little bit more sympathy, a little bit more empathy with them, knowing where they come from, what their perspective might be. And it's given me also more recognition of like the roles that they might play in the season too. You know, like while they are attempting to talk about their journey and their story, at the end of the day, it may not be their story to tell. It depends on what service they serve to an overall edit. And, you know, it makes me feel even worse for the people who do get purpled, because it's like, I know how much you wanted this. I know the story.
Yeah, totally.
I know what it took for you to get out here in the first place. So if anything, you know, from the contestant perspective, it definitely allows me to see them a bit more as an individual, you know, as someone, again, I got to know before the game began. And it's also very fun to see what they intend to do versus what they actually do and how much that matches up. And most of the time it really does not. The other side of things is that, you know, what I professed so much is that, like, getting to see production work.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to, like, you know, brown nose too much here, but it really is like a marvel in and of itself. I always compare it to an iceberg where we only see Jeff, and maybe you think about the cameraman, maybe you think about the guy who built the tribal council stumps, but, like, there are hundreds of people every day, and they are truly putting every ounce of themselves into everything they do to make the best product possible. And not to say that production is blameless at all. They certainly have done things, especially in the new era, that I do not agree with whatsoever. They've been doing things for a while in certain aspects that I disagree with heavily. But I do think that it does allow me to gain a bigger insight as to, like, what goes into every single thing that happens. And also to know that, like, unlike other reality shows where, again, production might do things out of apathy, there is intentionality. There are guided choices behind what they do. You may not agree with those choices. Again, I feel like some of those choices might be misguided, but they are choices. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily a, like, oh, so-and-so is lazy, so they're just doing this. Like, if they're doing something, it means that they think it's going to work. Right. And whether it does is a matter of opinion. But that has given me definitely a different insight to, especially the new era, which, again, tried to do this whole facelift and completely, I wouldn't say build the game from the ground up, but throw in a lot of stuff that the show hadn't seen in its first 20 years.
Yeah, 100%. I think repetition could be a thing that people don't latch onto super well. It's like, well, we saw this same thing last season. We saw that the season before. But, like, you know, the big issue last season was they had some fun characters. The pre-merge was incredible. And then at the end of the day, what can production do if the players aren't playing? You know what I mean? So I feel like maybe the edit gets a hard time. Sometimes the producers get a hard thing. Sometimes it's like they can't make them do things that they're not going to do.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have those seasons where it's like, here's this majority alliance. They are locked in. They have all the advantages. And, like, that's just how the cookie crumbles. And it sucks. Like, it's not an enjoyable viewing experience necessarily, but, like, you're also going to have seasons like that. You know, and I very much understand the gripes that people have with 48 that they have with this season, but, like, I don't know, Pepperidge Farm also remembers, like, back in the 20s, you know, when it's like, oh, man, what's going on here? Like, this is just a massacre with people that we don't find incredibly interesting. So, you know, maybe it's sort of the new era spin on those types of seasons, because up until that point, you know, I do feel like, and granted, it's also interesting to navel gaze a bit and see what seasons look like in retrospect. Like, watching the reception of 43 has been so wild, where it's like, right after 43, people were like, this season's trash. And then, like, as more seasons, especially in the wake of 48, people are like, well, maybe 43 is not looking so bad anymore. So, again, you know, this is a very different fan base than what it was 5 years ago. And so being able to see them track in real time their own opinions about things, it also doesn't help that we came after what I think is an incredibly strong batch of 3 seasons. I think, yes, people might have their begrudgings about the new era, about the structure, about the actual meat and potatoes, the muscles and organs within the skeletal frame were pretty damn baller 3 seasons in a row. And we were eating so good. And even through the first half of 48, I agree, it was fun, it was chaotic, and then we just, the thing that I love about Survivor is that, not to say the players make up the rules, but like they're the ones that kind of dictate what the philosophy of the season will be, and the philosophy of that season up to a certain
was integrity.
Point. It was,
yeah.
And I think that it's a sucky thing to watch, especially from like a modern day lens. It's not an exciting thing to watch necessarily, but that's what they wanted to determine is the criteria on the island.
What and there's also, I feel like some of it, not even some of it, so much of it is just from viewers becoming fond and like just knowing players, and then the season ends and then you're kind of given this time off. But when my wife and I like first started watching Survivor, it was only a few years ago, and not as long as Chase and PD have been watching Survivor, but we just binged a whole lot of seasons. And what we found is it was almost hard to like leave this season and go into and be like, oh, now I've got to like learn more people's names, and I've got to like get used to who they are and like figure it out again.
Work.
Yeah,
why don't they just use the same cast every season? I like those people.
In a way, people though, we just naturally are inclined towards maybe like a regular television show in some ways, where it's not a rotating cast, right? It's obviously a scripted show, but I feel like having caught up finally and like watching everything live with Survivor, you do get this nice time between where you get to look back at the season you watched and almost reevaluate it before the new one happens, where you're like, oh, like in the moment I thought I didn't like what I was seeing, but now I kind of like remember the fun stuff from it. So it doesn't move as fast. And
it also, like, there's always a bit more of a colorful lens one way or the other looking back on something. Because as you mentioned, like, you are looking at the broad strokes. I mean, I experience this all the time being a Big Brother fan, where... I'll just apologies. You feel free to like dissociate if you don't want like some Big Brother stuff. But like,
we love Big Brother.
So like Big Brother 25, for example, I thought still had like a very strong, very interesting first half, and then things got very rote and predictable the second half. And so you come back to next summer and everyone's like, yeah, Big Brother 25 was one of the worst seasons ever from beginning to end. And it's like, but we spent like 2 months of that season saying this was a very good time.
Yeah.
And again, not to bemoan the people who feel like the ending, and especially the end stretch, it was incredibly dull. And like that could determine your enjoyment of the season. But I don't want it to necessarily completely erase like the good amount of time we dedicated staying up to all hours of the morning watching these people crazily game. I feel like similarly, Big Brother 26, people from pretty much beginning to end until things kind of dropped off towards the end were like, oh my god, this is one of the best seasons ever. The cast is so wild. The AI arena is one of the best twists they've ever done. And then I pay attention to the discourse this season. They're like, remember when Big Brother 26 sucked and nobody was a good player? And it's like, where was this last summer? What is going on
here? We changed our minds.
So I'll be, again, very intrigued to see like what happens with Big Brother 27 next year, because people really, with the one understandable, very large exception, I think really enjoyed Big Brother 27, but there's always a little part of my head that's like, okay, when is someone going to come in with the like, but isn't Big Brother 27 kind of overrated? Or it's the exact opposite, where it's like, so there's this mother, and it's like the woman who gets fired from 5 million jobs because she listed off all the slurs in the human language. It's like, okay, well, I guess, all right, time makes heroes of us all, I suppose.
Yeah.
I love the who people latch onto online, especially with Survivor, where someone would be like, my favorite Survivor player is this player, and I'm like, I don't even remember them.
Like, who was that?
Who is that?
Look, it'll happen to me. Again, I'm the newest Survivor watcher. Actually, Bran, our other host, is probably the newest Survivor watcher. But sometimes Chase and PD, they'll like get really into the weeds, and they start being like, oh, Jonathan, you remember this guy? And I'll just fake it. I'll be like, yeah, totally. I really do. And then like a month later, I'll admit to them after we've continued talking about it. I'll be like, guys, I don't, I have to.
Hey. Mike does the same thing with his interviews. They're like, I want to be like this player. And he's like, cool. And he Googles for that player.
What was your favorite thing about the game they played? Yeah.
No, I'm very much the opposite, where I'm like definitely along for them with the ride, to the point where like they might not be along for the ride. They're like, yeah, my favorite player is this person. Like, oh yeah, when they cast that vote in episode 7, they're like, No, I just
I
kind of
don't-
liked when they won that challenge.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
I like the
Sure.
shirt they wore that season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, again, everyone
thought
has
Ozzy
a different
was
reasons
hot.
for loving people.
Speaking of 50, because I said Ozzy is hot, who are you most excited to see coming back for season 50?
Oh, I mean, I am such, a day one fan. Technically not a day one fan, but very close to it. That like I can't help but not be excited about like Jenna Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think people might not remember like how renegade she was, especially in All Stars. Like Mark Burnett's book that he writes about the first season, like they say how they initially cast Jenna to be the villain of Survivor Borneo because like she was very outspoken. She was very much like, do whatever it takes to get this money for my family. It just so happens that she was put in this underdog role because of her tribe that like everyone warmed up to her in the process. Without saying too much, when I interviewed her, she was shot out of a cannon. So like, it's tough for me because like obviously I was very excited to see a lot of new era standouts, but it's a very different thing. I know these people. I just watched these people, but like getting to not only talk with certain old school people, but getting to see them back. Of course, the Trinity from David versus Goliath. I was incredibly excited because this is something we have been waiting more than half a decade to happen in multiple ways. So those are really sort of like, I think the biggest alpha and omegas. Chrissy was also a great one just because there really was that window where like she was arguably one of, according to Survivor fans, like the most robbed contestants in the show's history. And then you think the window shut for a while. It's like, okay, there's no chance that she's coming back. And when 50 came around, it's like, are they going to remember these people? Are they just going to pay attention to the new hotness? Or like, are they going to remember the people that they couldn't cast since their first season? I'm gonna even say Rick to a certain extent as well. I know that Rick certainly has his haters, but like he made entertaining TV, and he knew exactly what he was put there to do, and I imagine that's going to be exactly the case here as well. And then of course, like, I mean, Suri is my favorite contestant of all time. I very much understand the argument of like, why do we need to see her yet again? But like, I'm always going to love seeing Suri. I'm always going to love talking to Suri. Even when she just freaking played Survivor and was the final juror, made it to the penultimate day. Like, I don't care. I love watching Suri Fields on reality TV because she makes it so enjoyable. Like, it feels like she's having so much fun and we're having fun by proxy. So, like, I know you asked a question. I listed off about a quarter of the cast.
Hey, that's okay.
That's a
my
good
answer.
problem to have.
I would much prefer you to be so excited than to be super negative and be like, I hate everyone they picked to bring back for 50. I'm very excited for Q to be back. I loved Q.
Oh, I love Q. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Jonathan?
We were big Q fans. Honestly, Suri is the first one that I think about because I feel like like you said, every time that I saw her on a season, and a lot of what Kristen and I were binging when we were catching up, it was just like, oh my goodness, like Cerise, And so for me, when I saw her name, I was like, this is going to be really interesting to see how this works for somebody who's done it several times in comparison to someone who's just returning for the second time. It's very interesting to think about. But I'm really excited to see her. I do love Q. I do love Q, and
love Q.
They
could very well win this thing.
Yeah, I mean, they should have brought Banu back. Is the only thing.
I wanted
that was the one exception.
The one miss.
I wanted Banu and Andy to team up and be the greatest alliance of Survivor of all time.
Yeah, it is the greatest and most short-lived alliance of all time. They wouldn't last until the end of the scene. They'd be like, great, we're working together, and they'd be sworn enemies by the end of that conversation.
Banu's like, I'm praying that Andy denies our alliance now.
Banu's just like praying, don't let anyone laugh when Andy opens his coconut. Don't let anybody cheer.
Can't wait for Operation India would be a masterclass. So.
Yes, dude.
Jonathan, we have a question from PD.
We do.
Can we play that?
We have again the guy who is it would have been great if PD could have been here, but he's just going to have to be with us via voice note played over a microphone. So here we go. Let's see what he's into.
Hello, this is PD. Calling in to make an emerge.
Hold up. What was that?
Why is he a smooth jazz DJ? Hello, this is
What's
PD.
up? This is PD with making emerge. so weird.
I mean, everyone talks about like having a radio voice. Maybe he's trying that because I feel like podcast voice. I don't know. Is podcast voice a thing? Do you guys feel like you put on a voice when you podcast?
We confirmed this with me the other week because I'm normally not the one with the hosting controls.
Yeah.
And the other week I got thrown into it, and the moment we hit record, I went into like a different mode of being.
But Mike, it was ridiculous because
it wasn't
really
bad.
It wasn't like he got more energetic. No, he literally put on a DJ voice and went, "So,
Well,
PD, I know you're dying to talk about that Jawan sauce."
I did. I said that statement, and we did not. This episode did not air because we had a lot of technical problems.
Did you have just like a dissociative episode, like your eyes roll back into your head?
I straight up, I don't know what happened to me, and I could feel it happening, and I'm texting
This
them.
just sounds like an excuse for you to never host again. You're like, I can't do it. I can't do it, PD. I'm so sorry. When I do, I go on a journey.
I'm technically
He
the
takes
one
over.
Yeah. You don't want him back. I'm technically hosting the controls right now, and I feel like
You're doing a great job, John.
You're doing great.
I took all of the medicine.
I mean, I haven't met you, so that you might be your alter ego right now, and I haven't met the real
Jonathan
you.
isn't here right now. Yeah, it's like, okay.
All right, let's hear PD's
Let's
question.
hear what the actual podcaster has to say.
Let's see what Smooth PD.
Yeah.
Hello, this is PD calling in
I just took
to
my
making
shirt
the
off.
merge because I couldn't be there tonight. I'm in a back alleyway right now in Manhattan. It's very dark. It's very dangerous. There's sketchy things happening here. But I did just want to call because we're having the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Bloom on today, which is crazy.
Wow, PD.
Crazy that a legitimate journalist would grace
Legitimate,
making the
thank you.
merge with their presence. A hardcore journo. Mike is the real deal. So thank you so much, Mike, for giving us a little bit of credibility just by coming on. But what I wanted to ask was, have you ever done an interview preseason and you walked away with it thinking, that is the winner right there?
Dude, what the fuck? PD! What the fuck, dude?
All this
That was
lead up.
you had to have scripted that. That has to be. That's an
No.
incredible bit.
Wait,
you
hold on.
guys outdid yourself.
What is he doing in an alleyway?
You know what I love to think about is I love to think about PD listening back to this episode, and the first thing that comes out of your mouth, Jace, is the question he knows that we're going to play like 30 minutes later.
Oh, my God.
Gentlemen, I think there's a non-zero chance this is the last thing you've ever heard from PD. Like, was there any sort of epilogue? Is he like, "Hey, I'm out of the alley," because he's describing his surroundings, and I'm a little
What is he
worried
doing?
for him.
Oh, there's a little bit left, so
Okay,
let's
hear it.
see if he asks an original question. Let's see.
If I have to guess, I would say that's how you felt after talking to D, because, I mean, it seemed obvious to me. But, yeah, I just wanted to know if that's ever happened to you.
Oh, you just re-emphasized it. PD,
I will
we
say,
love
also,
you.
D was another very good one. D was different because we were over Zoom instead of in person, but I still got a very good. I mean, yeah, I feel like she really was like the perfect package. And
Yeah.
I did perhaps predict that she and Austin would.
Ooh, make the distance.
Whoa.
I mean, listen, granted, I don't know how long if it's like a 100-meter dash at the end of the day, but like I did clock that like the two of them were similar in age. They were both very much into fitness, very much into travel. So I was like, there could be something. Maybe I just had, the Frankenship of Matt and Franny on the brain, but I was like, maybe there could be, if there were to be a connection, it could be between these two. Now, granted, there is a much longer-lasting love connection on season 45 at the end of the day, but this is obviously the much more visible one at the time.
Yeah.
I
don't
think
understand
PD's in
why.
love with D. He's really...
He is.
I mean, you can't spell PD without D.
Oh!
That's right,
Why
Mike.
have we not said that, Chase? We've never
That-
said that.
That's incredible.
Wow.
When we were just at the Survivor Bar, the Survivor Cafe in
Oh,
Boston.
nice.
And PD got a picture beside her face on the wall of winners. He was so excited. And then he went to an alleyway while we were in Boston and just started smoking cigarettes and being like, I got to talk to Mike Bloom.
No.
How was the Survivor Bar? Because I believe is it not in its last days? If not, it's already shut
It's
down,
done,
it
yeah.
seems. Yeah.
It's done. What's
All right,
really
so
fun...
now that the embargo's lifted, what's the official review? What's the official word from making the merge on this?
I
we had
wasn't there. It's going to have to be Chase.
Me and PD went. We had a blast. It was so much fun. We were there the night Shannon went home.
Ooh!
The bar cheered. And PD kept yelling at people, and he was like, "No! She owns the place." Dude, they didn't care. There was a video that went kind of viral in the Survivor space of the bar cheering for Shannon getting voted out. It was bizarre.
Oh my God! If they had a certain mind about things, if they were ready to just move on, they could have locked the doors and burned you all down.
I did think it was funny that the last week of the Survivor Cafe was the week after she was eliminated. So it kind of came off like they only wanted to do it while she was in the game. But it was a ton of fun. It was super cool to play the challenges that they had there.
Yeah.
The theming was all Survivored out. I'm sad that you didn't get to go because you could have told us how it compares to actually being on the sweaty-ass beach.
I mean, what I would imagine is that you were probably as sweaty, if not more sweaty, if you're packed in with all of these Shannon haters. No, but I mean, I've gotten the chance to. Those challenges are also, they're so fun to do. I've been to a couple of these beach drop events as well that had them, but it looked like an awesome time. I'll be intrigued to see if they do something similar for 50. Obviously, as you mentioned, there was a personal connection to the 49 version of this, but I wonder if it was successful in its first phase to warrant a full-scale version for Survivor 50.
That'd be so sick. I'm so excited for 50. It's, 25 years of Survivor. Jeff Probst should write a book and release a book about Survivor this year.
Now there's the photo book that's coming out, the Survivor book, but
Oh, and you know who else has a book coming out?
I mean, should I go on the list? Steven Fishback, Rob Cesternino, Eric Reichenbach's working on a memoir.
Jonathan, that was your cue to hit the
I missed
Rob
it. I missed it.
The Making the Merge podcast.
I should have
Thank
dropped
you, Rob.
it.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
That was from the what do they call it when they do the music, the fan submitted music episode?
Oh, the Wandoff.
Yeah.
The Wandoff. Jonathan submitted a song for that.
I did.
And that's where we got that from.
And it went far. We did good.
It was a parody of Pink Pony Club,
man,
called Big Bro Club about Joe and Eva and that alliance.
It's true. My 5 minutes of fame.
I remember listening to that actually. So I feel starstruck getting to know the singer of Big Bro Club.
It's a very original tune that I wrote myself completely. Definitely not a karaoke
Perception is
track.
reality. We can say you're Chapel Roan right now.
I feel like Chapel Roan right now. So I'm going to start yelling at both of you.
That sounds like a Survivor title waiting to happen. Like Survivor 51, I guarantee you there's going to be a title called I Feel Like Chapel Roan right now.
Dude. I feel like Chapel Roan right now.
And I'll want credit for it when it does happen. Not Chapel Roan, me. So
especially when Q is the one who says it.
Yeah.
I don't think Q knows who Chapel Roan is.
Oh, yeah.
I think Q thinks Chapel Roan is the name of a horse you can bet on.
He's like a super successful real estate agent, right?
Dude, he's slinging houses out there,
He doesn't have time for that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have time to listen to Chapel Roan.
Hey, man.
And one empty house and no one shows up to this open house, maybe he's throwing it on.
Well, that's the thing. I also wonder, what music does Q listen to? And then there's a part of me that thinks, the music Q listens to is, a tape of himself pumping him up that just runs on loop.
We can very well win this thing. Yeah. Take us through, because you cover so much, you do so much with Survivor. Take us through kind of like a day in the life of Mike Bloom when he's doing everything. What kind of shows are you doing day to day? What podcasts? What are you writing after the episodes? Take us through the journey.
Yeah, so usually, my busy days are Wednesday and Thursday, especially with Amazing Race now running at the same time as Big Brother. For a while now, it has been sort of like the companion piece with these 90-minute shows. So usually I'll have, mini recaps written up afterwards. And then the next day, it's pretty much a matter of just, going through, I take notes from all these episodes, going through, okay, what happened with this person? What do I want to ask about? Writing out way too many words as an intro to these people. And then hit the Zoom, hit record, talk to these wonderful individuals, and then it's all about transcribe as fast as possible, throw it up there, throw it on the internet, throw it on social media for people to digest to their best ability. Then I have an Amazing Race interview in the afternoon, and then usually I'll have an Amazing Race podcast that night. So it's a matter of and I have conscripted myself to the oddest of fates, which is, I don't know if you guys are Amazing Race fans, but For whatever reason, I have a running bit on that podcast where I have to wear a costume every week.
Oh,
and this
nice.
is not this again. Let me this is not put on by anybody else. This is not like a Rob Cesternino mandate. You hear, Rob? It's not you. It's me. It's a stupid thing that I decided I should do. And so then it's a matter of literally reaching into a closet and pulling out all these random pieces and trying to figure out what I want to do. I also have a child on top of all this who has now gone into helping me with this, which has really helped. Trying to really keep it in the family there in terms of my costume team. But then it's getting ready for the podcast that night, and then usually I'll do another podcast on the weekend called the RHAP B&B, which very much is the mood of this podcast. It's focusing on the lighter side of things, not deep diving heavy into strategy, unless our guest really wants to. And so it'll be a matter of if I'm prepping a game for that week, okay, let's look up what I want to do. For an example, this week we had the great Teeny from Survivor 47 on, and I was so inspired by Steven that I just asked about space facts. So I looked up a bunch of the wildest facts you've heard about outer space, and I threw it together into a quiz. So it is kind of in general, I sort of exist with the shark mentality, which is I kind of am always moving, kind of always working something, always focusing on something, and so I would say, the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is a little bit of the calm before the storm, but then towards the middle end of that week, especially again when both shows are on, and even then, because now in the winter we have Traitors, in the summer we have Big Brother, so there's an off period, but there's never really an off period. It's a soft off.
So when there is a little bit of that soft off period, you like what I did there, Jonathan?
Adding the T at the end, but we'll just go for it.
Because soft ends with a T too.
Yep.
You see what I was doing.
I'm not going to argue with you on here.
Hey, man, don't embarrass me in front of Mike, Jonathan. He is an esteemed journalist.
Yeah, he probably noticed it too, I'm assuming. Mike, are you on my side right now?
He thought it was charming, right?
Mike, you can say you're on my side.
I both noticed it and was incredibly charmed by it. How's that?
Oh, no!
Told you.
Now you've
right
made
in the
me
middle
look
there.
stupid
There's
in front of
that
Mike.
thread.
Now Mike thinks I'm an idiot, Chase.
Well, good. Everybody else does.
No, but it's not you. It's your DJ persona. You're not Jonathan right now.
It's not me.
Hey, Jonathan, we're not going to bully you this episode because PD called in with the smooth jazz
that?
alley voice.
Yeah. He's just snapping, walking towards us,
He's like, Mike Bloom, thanks for being here, baby.
Which is weird because I'm the exact opposite of smooth jazz. Listen to my voice. Feel the energy I come across as. I'm not the K107 whenever smooth trail on the saxophone. I'm the big brass just at all times.
Chase, we have to turn PD into a clip with that,
Hello, this is PD.
Just like that.
Oh my god! But anyway, as I was saying, with that soft off period, when there isn't anything going on, what are you doing? Are you just taking a little bit of a vacation, or are you still grinding on other things?
A little bit on other things. So I am also the TV editor for Parade. So it is a lot of not necessarily covering shows because I'm in more of an overseeing position there, but it's certainly keeping a pulse on what's going on. Sometimes that is, watching scripted shows, which I also love as well. I was raised by TV in general, and so I subsisted on not only unscripted but scripted television in my youth. It's, just watching all the great stuff that is out there. Sometimes I do like to decompress. I will say I have gotten very much into sports over the past 3 or 4 years or so. And I love it. It's one of those things where I'm like, why have I not gotten into this?
PD's always trying to sway us on this. PD is the sports guy.
We're not sports people.
He tries to bring stuff up. In fact, I named my whole draft team the Flinton Steelers and took the name Steelers just to make him angry because they're his team. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, and then we got jerseys, and I took his favorite player's number for my jersey. So,
what sport is your sport?
Yeah, what
Mike?
are you into?
So I would say if I could what's the Survivor equivalent? It would probably be football, probably be the NFL, just because it has sort of become America's sport. I think it's the most successful. It's probably the most exciting. Mm-hmm. I'm a big baseball fan as well. Baseball is my son's favorite sport, so I think also getting him more so into it. I've tried to get into basketball and hockey. I have a tough time with the constantly moving types of sports for whatever reason. Maybe it's because my ADHD has trouble with me hyperfixating on this, or my attention wanders and I can't really be oh, okay, I guess they just made 6 baskets, and I was looking down at my phone. But those I'd say would be the big 2, which makes sense. Like, again, I did not necessarily, obviously not participate in sports a lot when I was a kid. I know I'm shocking the world in saying that.
What?
I know. Big news. This is my big secret that I'm finally getting to make news here on Making the Merge. But my dad was very much a big sports fan, especially of football and baseball. So I think it just sort of like pervaded me through osmosis that when I actually got around getting into it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is exciting. This is fun. And I think especially for me, it's almost like, Jonathan, when you were kind of like binging past seasons of Survivor.
Yeah.
I'm not like binging past seasons of sports.
Football.
But
2013 was a great year.
Exactly, but I do love getting to find out about like the history of iconic moments,
Totally.
right? Like iconic players, like these names you hear of like, okay, I've heard of Jerry Rice, but like, what did he do, and why was he such a big deal? And so that's really cool for me. And like, it also gives me, I have started checking out like some sports YouTubers as well, or like sports commentators, and it gives me like so much appreciation for what they do, because I'm like, you are so cool. Like, you know so much about this stuff. You have this exciting personality, and then I'm a little bit like, is that what people think of me?
Yeah, that's you.
Like, because I just don't consider that, because again, these people are so well versed, they're so well educated, they're so well spoken, and they're like personable on top of that, and it's like, I like am in awe of what people are able to just rattle off in terms of facts and figures and narratives when it comes to sports. And so that's been like, honestly, I think my new passion has just been getting into sports, and specifically the history of sports. Like that's my nightly reading, is like indulging in some sort of, reflection or like book about highlights of past sports moments.
That's so
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Since we're just branching off into sports and the fact that you're TV editing, or TV editor, like I'm gonna ask what right now, what scripted show is just like hitting for you, and you're like, this is the best, old or new, like whatever.
I mean, it's got to be. I mean, right now, stuff that's currently on the air, it's Pluribus. For those who don't know, Pluribus is the Vince Gilligan Apple TV show starring Ray Seahorn. I mean, if you are into these like wackadoo mystery box shows, I mean, Lost is an incredibly important show to me. Got to do Down the Hatch with Josh Riggler covering Lost, doing like 300 hours of Lost podcasts for 2 or 3 years. And so I always love when that itch gets scratched. And so it is a wildly well done concept on a network that is, I think, very underrated. I think people usually remember it as like the Ted Lasso and Severance network, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, the thing that I've always been crowing to people about for newer shows this year was The Pit. I just coincidentally kind of like stumbled upon The Pit because I was like, oh yeah, there's the show from, one of the executive producers of ER with Noah Wiley. Like, I'll check it out. I had screeners for the first half, and I was like, oh my God. And I'm someone who abhors medical shows. I'm someone who's like, I'm pretty squeamish. I like, if you have some sort of like body horror component, even if it's done in a comical way, like that is the number one thing to probably make me just steer clear away from your show. And so I was really nervous, and not to say that it glorifies anything. In fact, it is incredibly gruesome, but I was just so captivated by the performances and the concept of it in particular that I just was immediately incredibly on board. What's more, it's coming back very soon. Like, it is one of these rare shows that is actually doing 2 seasons in 2 years, which we should be. I mean, that's the thing too. People are like, oh, Survivor puts out 2 seasons a year. That is such a rarity. In 2025, we're talking right now 2 days before Stranger Things season 5 premieres.
4 years, right?
It's been 3 years since season 4, and it has been nearly a decade since the first season.
Insane.
11 is a mother.
Oh yeah,
Literally.
that's right. Yeah.
11 is a mother, guys. We could talk about TV all night long. We all do it for a living, so it's true. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I don't know, man.
What happened to you?
Now I want to hear from you guys. What's your association with TV? Because now I'm curious.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jonathan does this show. My main job, I'm a YouTuber, so I talk about TV shows.
And I'm a video editor, so I do video and post-production.
Yeah.
So,
what are you guys watching? What would you recommend?
Oh, That's a great question. I've been watching The Chair Company like crazy on
I
HBO Max.
I love Tim Robinson.
I think it's phenomenal, and they signed for season 2. And today I watched this past week's episode and just cried laughing. It is absurd, and it is the strangest thing I've watched in a hot minute. So.
I love it. Yeah, it's great because it's like it's also very fun to watch Tim Robinson get some love always because I am and I think you should leave boy from the very first day. You had me at It Goes Both Ways with the door, and like I love finding people who love it as well because it not only feels niche, but you also have to like very much get it.
Yes.
Like this is not a thing that's like, oh, it's this hidden gem that you're gonna love. You just have to see it. It's like, no, even if you show it to somebody, you kind of gotta flip a coin.
I
showed
whether
it
or
to
not
a friend,
and he was just like, this is the worst thing you've ever introduced to me. I showed it to numerous other people, and they were like, this is the greatest thing that you've ever showed me. So, like you said.
Yeah, I'm watching, for my channel, I'm watching Desperate Housewives right now. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Where are you at right now in terms of like the chronology of it?
I just finished episode 7 or 8
of season 1.
Of season 1, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you are really in like the gold. I wouldn't say like the golden era, but like when it starts off, I mean, it was wild to think back in like 2004 when it was like Grey's Anatomy, Lost, and Desperate Housewives. Like they had a chokehold on
network
on
TV.
broadcast.
They
TV.
changed that whole network. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah,
no, I'm saying like
elaborate on that.
Well, no, I'm saying like the fact that
they
like
changed the whole network. Keep
they
going.
did. I mean, when you look at the fact that like when Lost and Desperate Housewives both came on, I think there was like a changing of the guard with how like they were running the network at that point. So no, it's interesting.
You
didn't think I knew that?
Have you ever read Disney War before?
I haven't, but I've read about it.
Very much recommend it, whether you were like a Disney fan or not, because there is a prominent section dedicated to running ABC, because obviously Disney acquires ABC at some point down the line. Like it is, I'm a big nonfiction guy. It is one of like, and I don't know how much of it is nonfiction. It is told in a narrative style rather than doing sort of like an oral history type of thing. But it is incredibly fascinating. It's all about Michael Eisner's tenure during Disney and how he was sort of like brought in as sort of like this X factor and then gained a lot of favor and then lost a lot of favor along the way. There's a whole section about like they took this chance on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They took this chance on Lost, on Desperate Housewives. And so it's really fun to experience that. Again, like, we were just like naive teenagers being like, oh yeah, this stuff is fun. But then you don't realize like all the corporate decisions that were happening being like our lives and jobs are on the line if this show doesn't work.
Yeah. It also, not just ABC, like, and this, we can cut this out, PD, if this isn't interesting to everybody. But, like that. Like
if you made it out of that alley, PD.
Yeah.
Like the idea that the WB and UPN were created to try to compete with Fox in the 90s. I love all that stuff. Jonathan does too,
that's wild to think about too, right? Obviously, given like the way Fox has gone, I think as a company and like the demo that it courts, to have it be the renegade child of the 90s, right? Of like, here's Married with Children, where they're a family, but they hate each other. Like, or even like, The Simpsons is like my bread and butter. That is like my 1A show of all time, Golden Era Simpsons. And so like, to think about how risque that was in the early 90s, Bart Simpson merch was banned in schools nationwide. The sitting U.S. president, back when it was uncouth to like decry somebody on television, talked down to The Simpsons. Like, it's wild to think about how much Fox kind of changed what flew in the realm of network TV. And so, that's I love reading about like TV history as well, because again, obviously there's a lot you take for granted, but like obviously reading something like TV the Book, it is always a really fun one to get to explore like all these gems from the 80s and 90s that you weren't necessarily familiar with. I think I'm always, maybe it's because like I am always forward-looking when it comes to my day-to-day, whether it's looking ahead to what's happening next or what's happening in the moment, that I spend, like, all of my nightly wind-down activities looking back, whether it's, like, checking out stuff that I did not necessarily know about from, when I was young or even before I was born, whether it's checking out these sports moments that are iconic that I had no sort of base in. It's a nice way to, I think, I guess, not focus on what's going on currently in my life, but being like, let's go back to a time where I didn't have these, bare necessities to worry about.
Yeah, 100%. You heard it here, folks. We're going to start a history of television podcast. It's Mike Bloom and Jonathan.
Oh, my God. Don't tempt me with a good time. Holy moly.
But sincerely, thank you so much for being here. This was a ton of fun. Thanks for goofing off with us. And
oh, my God. No, thank you guys for goofing off with me. Like, I know that, again, obviously, to somehow loop it back around to Survivor 49, I know that, as you mentioned at the very beginning, some people are in, some people are out on this season. I have been enjoying the way it's been picking up, especially. I think this cast is fun. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen next. I don't know if you guys watched the preview. It looks to be like a very emotional, like Christina goes a little like Liz adjacent in a bit of a breakdown at the challenge. So like, I'm not sure what that's going to involve. It seems like, wars brewing with these advantages, though at the rate this season is going, they may not even need to use any of these advantages at this point. Like, Sophie S might be like, all right, I'm going to vote with you guys. It's like, okay, great. Then we just need one more at this point. But, and Jeff did promise that things would quite literally heat up down the stretch. And I think that is the case. And even if you don't feel that's the case, we've got a month left, and then the preseason for Survivor 50 begins.
Yeah. I'm very excited for this week's episode. I think Riz is crying in the preview. I can't wait to see what happens. Maybe a snake got him.
And he's just crying venom. That's the way you actually get the venom out of yourself if a sea crepe bites you.
Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Making the Merge.
Everything looks pink to me. And that's my favorite color. So could we be my new favorite thing?
Now you guys can listen to ads for the next 20 minutes. I don't know.